Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Iftikhar Khan, and today I'd like to invite you to join me on my trip to one of California's most magnificent national parks, Death Valley. This park has been protected from human development by the US government because it features such astonishing variety of animals and plants, and it also features incredible scenery. California has been especially blessed in this regard, as it features so many world-class destinations, including Joshua Park, Sequoia National Park, Death Valley, and of course Yosemite. Today I'm going to share some personal footage shot by me in the park, and at the same time I'll share some historical and scientific knowledge in the process. I hope you enjoy the program. Let's go take a look. Death Valley, famous for being one of the hottest and driest places in the world, is located in the northern Mojave Desert, along the California-Nevada border. Along with its extreme conditions, it also features the lowest point in the Western Hemisphere, at Badwater, which is 282 feet or 86 meters below sea level. Death Valley contains over 970 species of plants and numerous species of mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and fish. Coming here in the summer is a really bad idea, since summer temperatures average at 120 degrees routinely, due to the lack of surface water and low relief. The second highest temperature recording on Earth was recorded here on July 10th, 1913, at a horrific 134 degrees Fahrenheit or 57 degrees centigrade. Even when we visited in the spring of 2005, the weather was almost unbearable down in the valley. The first known non-Native Americans to enter the valley arrived in the winter of 1849, thinking they would find a shortcut to the gold rush happening in California. They were unable to find a way out of the valley for weeks, and were forced to eat several of their oxen to survive. After abandoning their wagons, they eventually were able to hike out of the valley. After leaving the valley, one person reportedly said, "Goodbye, Death Valley," which is where the infamous name now comes from. For a brief period, the area hosted several little towns, made up of miners searching for gold and borax, a mineral used to make soap. But the combination of extreme conditions and little success led to people moving away, creating eerie ghost towns. President Herbert Hoover proclaimed the area a U.S. National Monument in 1933, setting aside almost 2 million acres of southeastern California and small parts of westernmost Nevada. In 1994, the monument was expanded by 1.3 million acres and promoted to the status of a national park by the passage of the Desert Protection Act. This made it the largest national park in the lower United States. Even though the park is known around the world, its remote location and infamous reputation has resulted in it being not as popular with tourists as other national parks. During our visit, we often had miles of scenery all to ourselves. It is somewhat of shame because, as you will see, the park offers a huge variety of scenery and wildlife. As mentioned earlier, Badwater is a salt flat that contains the lowest point in the Western Hemisphere. Stories relate that an early surveyor, whose mule wouldn't drink the water, marked on his map, Badwater, unintentionally naming the place. The massive sea of white is made up of almost pure table salt. When significant rainstorms flood Badwater, the area is covered with a thin sheet of standing water. Due to the relentless heat, the newly formed lake doesn't last long though. Bad water never dries out completely though, and even manages to support a unique species of fish. Literally in the middle of nowhere, and a true sight to see, is Scotty's Castle, located in northern Death Valley. The story behind its conceptions is almost as interesting as the building itself. A character by the name of Walter Scott convinced millionaire Albert Johnson to invest in a gold mine. When Johnson came to see what he was investing his money into, he realized that Walter Scott had swindled him. But the warm, dry heat of the desert instantly improved Johnson's health, and he decided to relocate to the region, with Scotty as his guide. Construction began on the castle in 1924, and over $2 million was spent building it. The castle began to be known as Scotty's Castle, instead of Johnson's, because Scotty would pretend it was his. Today, the castle is operated by the National Park Service and is an interesting peek into the lifestyles of the rich in the early 20th century. Another interesting sight to see is the charcoal kilns, which were built in 1867 and were used to reduce trees to charcoal in a process of slow burning in low oxygen. This fuel was then transported to mines in Death Valley to feed smelting and ore extraction operations. The kilns were abandoned 3 years after they were built, but were recently restored in the last couple of decades by local Indians. The racetrack is famous for rocks that mysteriously move across its surface. To this day, nobody's claimed to actually seen the rocks move, but the tracks left behind are obvious. The dramatic scenery, combined with the mystery of how these rocks move, attracts scientists from all around the globe. Most speculate that the strong winds, combined with wet mud, must be at least in part responsible. Ubehebe Crater is a large volcanic crater that is half a mile wide, 800 feet deep, and 4,000 to 7,000 years old. The crater was formed when hot magma and cold groundwater combined, creating a steam explosion that blasted rocky debris out from the base at over 100 miles an hour. What was left from this violent explosion is the huge hole we see today. When we visited, we hiked around the top. There are also trails that lead down into the bottom of the hole for the motivated hiker. Speaking of hiking, Death Valley offers numerous trails for hikers of all ages and stages. There are short 1-hour hikes that the whole family can enjoy, or multiple day treks that will challenge the fittest hiker. A short hike that we really enjoyed was through the Golden Canyon. This gorge features sandstone rocks in an astonishing variety of colors. A few decades ago, a paved road wound through the Golden Canyon, but the violent storms that sometimes hit the area washed it away. These storms pounded the canyon, forming numerous dry waterfalls on the trail. The trail winds its way through the Red Cathedral, where most visitors turn back. Further on is Zabriskie Point, a multicolored rock formation devoid of any vegetation. Coming at the right time of the day will reward the experienced photographer with incredible pictures. Another great spot for pictures is the aptly titled Artist's Drive, where these pictures were taken. While we were here, we also enjoyed another 1-hour hike to this natural bridge. This huge bridge is another example of how extreme conditions can change the landscape. For those of you who are looking for a more challenging and rewarding walk, a hike to the top of Wildrose Peak may be just what you're looking for. We started the hike early in the morning, and as we got closer to the top, we were rewarded with cool temperatures and incredible views. The roughly 4-mile hike includes a 2,000-foot gain in elevation, so we made sure to bring lots of water and took many rest stops. We were so high up that there was still snow on the ground in some areas. At the top, we had a 360-degree view of the valley, including Badwater in the distance.
Badwater back there. Salt mines. Salt deposits.
As you've hopefully noticed, there is a lot to see and do at Death Valley. Since it is located fairly far from Los Angeles, most visitors tend to stay at least one day in the park. There are a few hotels and resorts to choose from both inside and outside the park. When we visited, we chose to camp in one of Death Valley's numerous campsites. Setting up a tent usually takes less than half an hour, and the best part is that it's free. Plus, instead of eating at restaurants, we could barbecue our own dinner and enjoy a campfire at night. We spent 3 nights in Death Valley, which only allowed us to barely scratch the surface in seeing this wonderful national park. We look forward to inshallah coming back soon.